Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show with my co-host, Lucky Stone. It's glad to have you back again.
Hello. It's great to be here. Can't wait for the adventure.
Yes, the big adventure ahead for us tonight. It's been a while since you were on. Now you are doing some shows with Grandpa Brian, which you just had one. A very good show. What do you call that show?
Oh, I have forgotten. I you got me again. It was really pithy and I don't know the name of it. I had to look it up. I
didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I forgot beginning of the other show. I forgot because I didn't add it to the show, and I have forgotten. Oh, that's right. Oh, old school wisdom.
Well,
I think it was old school.
Phil Donahue, or what that Donahue guy.
The Bill Donahue. That because we done this is the third show we've done together, which was like old school wisdom. But yeah, the Bill Donahue was about he's a like a religious philosopher, and he passed away a few years ago. And Brian introduced me to him on his videos, and I listened to some of his videos, some of his podcasts, and interesting. He takes Christianity, the Christ teachings, and says it's not history. They're all stories. They're all parables. They're all allegories. And he tells you how to read the allegories, understand them, rather than taking them as this is word for word history, which is what the religion says. This is word history, but he's teaching here's the allegory, and here's the clues, and to tell you how to read the allegory. It's interesting.
Absolutely. There's no way that they just put those stories out there, them parables, point blank, to understand them, like the Three Little Pigs kind of story, or Mary Had a Little Lamb story or something. That would just be too easy and upfront. I think I'd mentioned in the chat there a while. I don't mean to talk on this too much, but it was the point of even in if you want to get down to it, looking at old pictures at a museum from an artist who painted it 500 years ago. They would put symbols and things in that picture to represent other things, because at the time there might have been religious persecution for anything they might have said or done, and they wanted to get the word out there by putting it out there in a funny sort of way, and you had to interpret these things to find the meaning. It wasn't just a house on a hill with some lady carrying a bucket of water.
Yep, absolutely. It's right. The Sistine Chapel's one of them. The Last Supper by Da Vinci.
That's a good one. Yes.
Yeah, it's all of these have hidden meanings, and of course they're just cleaning them up now because they have a way of cleaning without ruining the original paint. Because originally through the years they paint over them. Well, they're removing the overpaint and looking at the original, and there's actually more details that they're finding, and it's like, whoa. But it's gonna take years to do this. But the Last Supper is fascinating. And Sistine Chapel, because of the soot, they're removing that too, and there's detail that in it. Every detail is a story in of itself. It's wonderful.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But the same goes for the parables. Same goes for all those stories. The whole story thing is basically one giant parable with parables layered. There's a word for that, but they're layered atop of layers. And one parable may even talk about another parable, inside the parable.
Yep.
Go figure. And so there you go. But that's not our question tonight. Tonight we're gonna all right, everybody, let's get down to business. I've got a question tonight that sounds simple, but it's the kind of question that can mess up your whole week, but in a good way. And are we really talking about? Not your job title, and we're not talking about your political label. This sure fits in with what's going on in the world right now. And it's not not what you drive, and it's not what you wear, and it's not what you post. I mean, what are you? Because the way you answer that question changes everything.
Yes.
And it's how you treat other people, what you think success is. And the kind of world you're willing to tolerate and what kind of government you believe is acceptable.
Mhm.
And we're not we're picking sides politically or nothing like that, but we're going to talk about uh, the government by purpose, a world run on purpose instead of profit, purpose instead of power, purpose instead of fear. And I know that some of you are thinking, hey, Robert, sounds beautiful. Sounds like a sales pitch. And exactly that. So tonight, we're going to do what we always do here. And we're going to, well, we're not going to clap like steels. We're not going to boo like hecklers. We're going to think. And that's what I always talk about, think. Because truth doesn't need hype. And truth can handle questions. So let me tell you what I think the real crisis is right now. And it's just not inflation. It's not just elections and it's not just war, which may be right around the corner. It's not just AI. The real crisis is identity. People don't know who they are anymore. If you don't know who you are, you become easy to control because you start borrowing identity like outfits. Have you ever done that before? You know, I'm this party, I'm that movement, I'm this religion, I'm that ideology, and I'm this tribe,
Mhm.
I'm that side. And suddenly your identity isn't something you discovered, it's something you joined.
Mhm.
And when you join an identity, you also inherit an enemy. That's how the world stays divided. You are the universe exploring itself. And that you're not just a citizen of the nation, you're a citizen of something much bigger. Call it the cosmos, call it creation, call it God's world, call it the universe, whatever language you use. At this point, you're not an accident with a social security number. And if we're honest, people are starving for the kind of meaning right now. And what do you come by that? You believe that you're more than just have you traded your identity for something else here and there? Not saying all the time, but have you?
I think we all have, you keep your job, you find yourself, this is my job and this is my place. And honestly, rivalries sometimes the big thing about a job is that you'll have different departments that have these rivalries. And I am terrible at playing politics, but it seems like the people who can play it's kind of like a sports analogy where the sports teams, they kind of fight, but they get along, they're friends, ha ha ha. And except in soccer where they beat each other up, but that's a football. They do, ha ha, your team lost, that. But sometimes that doesn't work where you have like rivals with different departments, and that kind of defines who you are. And I think one of the things you wrote was that you can be defined by your enemies, and that blew my mind. Like, yeah, I guess you're right, because yes, I can be part of a group, but my group doesn't matter anything until you have someone to go against. You have a competition with somebody, and you kind of define yourself by how you do with your competition. And I've done that more than often than not. And sometimes you catch yourself, and sometimes you don't until you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, because like I think you had a good one. You're on a sports team. Well, I mean, if you cheer for a certain sports team, all the other sports teams suck. Mine's the best. Go go go. I don't know who's playing in the Super Bowl or not, or is that? Yeah, that's coming up, isn't it? Sometime here soon.
It's coming up soon, yeah, within a month or so. I honestly, I don't follow sports anymore, but
Neither do I. It just hit me in the head that I'd seen that somewhere, and I thought, did they play it already?
yeah,
No, I think
it's gonna be in a few weeks. Whenever they, sometimes I watch for the commercials, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, I used to watch football I'm in New England, Patriots, big Patriots fan. I love the Patriots, but then they won 13 rings in a row, 13, and it was like, then it became, for me, back in the day in the 80s, it was the Red Sox. I was a big baseball Red Sox fan.
Mhm.
And our biggest rival was the Yankees, because the Yankees would buy the best and the brightest. And then it became where the same people who were I was fans with Red Sox, now I'm telling them, you didn't like the Yankees because they used to buy up all the good players. They used to buy their wins. Now the Red Sox are doing that. Oh no, it's different now because it's our team. And it's like, there's still a big rivalry between Red Sox and Yankees, and I don't see a difference anymore. And that's the thing, I like the losing team. I like the competition, but once a team wins, it's no fun anymore. And that's for me. And I have my friends who are Red Sox fans. They're still Red Sox fans, and they don't see the weird, that they did just like the Yankees. They're the same team. They just they play in different places. But the thing you don't like about the Yankees, the Red Sox are doing the same thing, which is like politics. I hate the other side. But if you put your dislike to the other team, the other political party, your party is the exact same thing if you paid attention, but no one wants to see that. And that's what we did. I think that's identity. Identity is our team. This is our team, and these are our enemy. And, we're better than our enemy, but we're all the same. That's the truth. That's the problem. When you don't pay attention, you don't realize we're all the same.
Well, exactly. And throughout the centuries, the early humans, they began to form these social units with family, and they increased this, and they became hunter-gatherers, and eventually, they socialized into tribes and nations and groups, and eventually they became, they knew they were stronger, better together. They, could beat out the other enemies if they joined forces, and eventually it turned into more. Their group, would even kill people for their nation, my God, my flag. Well, we seen that in World War II, didn't we? and that wasn't it. Then people started realizing, hey, wait a minute, this isn't so good. It gets a little out of hand at some point. But then again, everybody wants to be on that winning side. Who wants to join the loser side? Mm-hmm. You want to be on the winning side. Everybody does. And of course, that happens with governments and political powers and God knows what else, But your identity is, people establish themselves and become their identity. But we should be, and I don't want to say it's like socialism, but it's kind of weird. It's not. We shouldn't be a socialist either. There's got to be a happy middle ground, a universal citizen. A citizen not of just, like you said, against these people and those people. We're human, correct?
Yeah. Actually, my wife is Thai, and it reminds me of a story of the Thai. The Thai is the only country, Southeast Asia, that wasn't colonized by England or France because England took over Burma, or Myanmar was Myanmar now, or would have got back. And then France took over Laos and Cambodia, in Vietnam. And England and France came to Thailand and said, which one are you going to ally with us? Because we'll protect you from the other one. And the king of Thailand was such a genius. He said, I'm going to ally with both of you. You both can be trade, but in that kept the both out of their country because he allowed them to establish trading partners with both of them in his own country. And because they both wanted to trade with Thailand, or Siam at the time, it kept them out of each other. They kept them from both taking over Thailand because they all both wanted to trade with Thailand, and it protected them from Burma from invading Thailand. It kept Cambodia and Vietnam from invading Thailand. It kept them a sovereign country for so long, and that's it. Rather than telling them which team are you going to belong because we're going to protect you from the other guy, he said, "I'll take both of you," and it blew their mind because God. Both France and England wanted Thailand, and they both won, but they kind of lost. It was a bold move for a country to do when everyone was being colonized. And I think that's sometimes the middle choice is sometimes the most difficult because you want to be in the winning team and you don't know which the winning team is until it's too late.
Yeah, but there's an old saying that says when goods don't cross borders, armies will.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and so, if you're the trading partner, well, I'm not going to go and ruin that. I'm going to keep trading. And yeah, so I guess there's something to be said for that. What a smart man that king was.
It is amazing. And then the same idea when Japan came to World War II. Japan came and told Thailand, "You're either going to declare war on England, France, and the United States, or we're going to destroy you." And so they declared war. Thailand declared war on England and France, and in the United States they set up a secret underground embargo so that after the war, that when England and France demanded war reparations, the United States said, "You're going to pay for the rice at market value," because they never declared war on all three of us. And again, it was a bold tactical move that was so intricate. So, and that's, if you ever negotiate with a Thai person, be very careful because they will smile to your face, give you exactly what you want, but really in the end, it's what they want. And it's basically, it's the mindset of learning how to play the middle. And it's a difficult thing. And my wife, again, she's a master at it. And sometimes I wonder, wait, am I doing what I want or am I doing what she wants? But again, it's a culture. And God, I mean, they're having political issues right now with Cambodia and stuff like that. But again, they're still a sovereign country. So if they get through it, great. But again, they do have border disputes with their neighbors, and the United States stepped in and tried to help. But I think if you want to be a sovereign country, you got to learn how to, negotiate the treaty, and that's can be tough, because you want your enemy to be the bad guy, but in the end, we all want to live in peace, and that's the problem. Governments want to take over the world, but we humans, little people, the citizens want to live in peace.
Yeah, no, this is true. The people, if you go to war, you don't know your enemy. Your government says that's the enemy over there, and that guy doesn't know you, and you're going out to probably end his life. Another soldier on the other side, and he just wants to go home to his family too. That's all.
Yeah, World War One was just crazy. The more you learn about the World War One, they were all the same family. The German family, the English family, the French, they were all basically different. They were all cousins, and they were fighting, and they just dragged the whole world in on it.
Yeah.
The United States came in because we're friends with England. But
Yeah.
and honestly, if that war had just been treated and not decimated Germany, there would never have been World War II. And basically, World War II, Germany had no choice because they were desolate, and that's why World War II afterwards was treated a lot better. But again, I don't know. Sometimes you make your enemy so bad that they end up turning them into that. You think your enemy is so bad that by your actions and your thoughts about because they're so bad, you actually turn them into the thing you accuse them of. It's crazy.
Well, and you're probably right on that aspect. Is because we're all well, let's go back to we're all human.
Yes.
And yet, if you're in the United States, the news will tell you that Russia's the bad guy. They're horrible, they're evil, they're trying to take over the world, and this, that, and the other, when really they don't even have that big of an economy. I can't even believe they can continue this war. They have a huge land mass, but compared to the United States and people-wise, not so much.
Even worse is that they're fighting over Chernobyl. The land of Chernobyl is unusable. It is radioactive. The only thing there are animals who were mutated. But they both, Ukraine and Russia, want Chernobyl. God forbid, I don't even understand that whatsoever. But again, there's more to the story that we don't even understand, which is, I think, the truth of it all. There's more that we don't know. The governments know very well why they want this, but unfortunately, the real little people, the soldiers, the people that have to die and fight in it, when the governments know the real reason behind it, and it's all about big money and stuff like that, or power, and money is power, so it goes back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back and forth, and like I said, you're right. But as being in the United States, we look at them as the enemy, and I'm sure if you're in Russia, they're looking at us as we're the enemy. But
absolutely,
really, are we? I don't have anything against the Russian people, and it's the governments that use us to do and conquer and plunder for minerals, supplies, even back thousands of years, agricultural stuff, and increased population density, meaning that they were looking for food and they would conquer lands for farmland and resources as wood and, things like that were the valuable. Well, let's conquer them and we can take all their trees and build ships or something.
In the information that we get about China, about Russia, is not all the whole story. I mean, we know that China is burning a lot of coal, a lot of fossil fuels, and we're supposed to. The United States is cutting back and going towards more sustainable and solar power, which is unfortunately so far behind. The truth is that China, their solar panels are beating the heck out of American solar panels. And it's like, and yes, they're using a lot of coal, but they are turning their economy around to more of a renewable resource. But we don't get the whole story. We only get parts of the story. And again, you don't even know the whole story. You don't even, that gets out of China and we find out about. So what is the truth? I don't even know what the truth is. I mean, if you watch a lot of the videos that are, the AI slop that's coming out, some of it's based on truth, some of it's based on what the AI believes is the truth. And so we don't even know what truth is anymore, because the AI is just taking all the information, doesn't know how to figure it out. It's just giving it out. And then that becomes the truth. And then it just empowers it. And, eventually it's going to come out that, we're going to have, I don't know, a way of determining it. But again, until that day, we're going to get conflicting information, and it's all going to be, yep, that's the truth. And half it's not going to be, but it's going to be equal to the real truth. So I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. It's hard to determine what the truth is when most of it is the truth, and the rest is, a little bit of made up stuff. And I think that's where things go really wrong. It's kind of like the Bible, it's set in a real place, in a real time, with, some real characters and some may be fictional characters. You can't really say if they were fictional or they were real, and some were real, and the places were real, and the time was real, and the setting was real. So what is truth and what is fiction? We don't know. It's happened so long ago. Yes. We're still looking at it.
Oh, absolutely. And the truth is taken and it's exaggerated to a point, and we don't know what's exaggerated. It's so sad. It's so confusing sometimes. And then me and my disseminating mind, I look, and every time I see this is AI, click, I don't want to watch this. And it might be great information. It might be solid information that I need. But I hear that AI voice and I'm like, I can't trust anything anymore. And again, that's the problem right there. It's how am I going to get information? Because now everything's disseminated through AI, unless I learn that, okay, I'm going to have to accept AI as a way of getting information, but then also check on it afterwards. I don't know. It'll get better, but until then, we have to go through the struggles as we go right now. That's it.
Yes, I totally agree. I was looking at some of my notes, and I was talking about the differences in with the diverse population And we're dealing with some of that right now here in the United States, and I think around the world. So no matter where you're listening from, people, it's happening in your backyard. We had people come here from lately from Somalia,
Oh yeah.
Muslims from Arabia. We had, and I don't want to put a label on, religion. I think Muslim would be religion, but Somalia is a country. So it gets really confusing with people not even knowing they're labeled with a religion or they're labeled with a country because people don't even know. They just don't understand. And they're so different that it's hard to function with them in our society because their truth or their way of life, their normal is totally against what we feel is a normal. Right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. My neighbor is Muslim. And of course, when we think of Muslim, we think that women are second-class citizens. Their daughter is handicapped, and she goes to special school. She's treated very, very well. So, if me and my prejudice think that Muslims treat their women as second-class citizen, but they treat their daughter, who is, supposedly handicapped. Who actually no, she is handicapped. And they're doing everything in their power to treat her well and get her what she needs. Well, if they really treated women as second-class citizen, they wouldn't. They would just, shut her up. So again, we have our own prejudice, and I honestly, it was enlightening to me because again, even though I don't want to be prejudiced, it's in the back of my head. It comes out, and I realize, oh my God, I am prejudiced because I am surprised at the way they're treating their daughter, she's a teenager now, but again, and she's probably the mindset of a young child, maybe 8 or 9, so she's mentally, but they treat her well and they do everything they can to keep her well and healthy and in school and do everything. They do, and they treat her so well. And again, I'm so surprised, and I know that being surprised with this makes me prejudiced. It blew my mind. It blew my mind that I learned so much about myself by my neighbor training their daughter, normally, and they moved this area so they could take her to special school, and it's just, yeah, I didn't really know how prejudiced I was until I was confronted with something that that I judged. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Nice people, very, very nice people. Probably the better neighbors I've ever had. Yep. It's interesting.
Well, and see that there you go with that identity crisis that we started talking about. Is you took on the identity of being prejudiced against a certain group. I mean, I have too. You have that put in your head. And if you want to see non-prejudice, you get a bunch of little kids that are black, white, different religions, whatever, put them all together, and they will play. They'll have fun. They don't care if they're girls or boys or red, black, white, whatever. They will just have fun because they're kids. And then when they grow up, as Grandpa Brian has said here, we are the ones that put labels on people. And they get imprinted from their parents, others, experiences they had, television, you name it. They get these things put in their head, and then they start distrusting that little black kid over there or the little Muslim kid. And, oh, you're Muslim, you're different. I can't hang out with you anymore. What? We were friends 2 weeks ago. I heard things about you. I can't.
Yeah.
And then you grow up like that, and it just diverts you down a whole nother path. And I think they talk about a new earth, the new earth that's coming, and I think the new earth is, I hate to say it, is a long ways off, because if the new earth is coming, it means that we're going to have to, as adults, look past that, get rid of the labels, realize that we're all just citizens, and we're all people, we're all human, and maybe that will change some of the other people, maybe we're not violent, but those other people have grown up in a world full of violence, and their idea of, like you were saying, identity of somebody else and their judgment is to hurt you maybe, or destroy, if you don't believe which has been around for, 1,000 years with the different religions, especially Christianity. If you don't believe what we believe, we're going to, you're going to be put to death. We'll chop your arm off or something. What? And they still do this today with religions. They're genocide all over the world. How do we get past this?
I don't know. And I'm thinking back, I hate to do the analogy, but grew up on a farm. We used to get dogs every so often. And we had an abused dog who, was food aggressive. No question about it. Very possessive of his food. Even though we had a system where we had food available for all the time for the dogs, but he had to be fed by himself. And because of the new system, we couldn't have him out with the other dogs, because the other dogs would just say, you know what, you can eat all my food. I don't care, because they're just going to fill it for me anyways. And he would just become a glutton. And it took, I think, about 5 years before he learned that food will always be available. But again, I think humans are the same way. I think that instinct in us, that the fear we grew up in, influences us later in life. And it takes a long time to break it. And unfortunately, if that dog was with other dogs who were food aggressive, he would be food aggressive for the rest of his life. But because he was with our dogs who were not food aggressive, he eventually, took a long time, but learned not to be food aggressive. And I think the problem with us humans is we tend to stick with people like us, and it kind of reintegrates those weird things in us that keep us, those negative feelings, up in us. And because a lot of the people who come from other countries where they're treated terribly, they come to this country which they should be treated well, but they stay in the same groups who are all treated terribly. So, they still have that same fear, and it kind of, well, I got to protect my own people, not realizing, well, why can't we be a community together? And, that negativity from their past country now ruins this country. That comes up so often.
Yeah, why leave that country and then bring all your problems, your struggles, your mindset to this country and not adopt what we have? That's what makes us unique here. Yep. Is we have that, and everybody wants to come here because we have these freedoms. And if you come here and you say, oh, we don't want those freedoms, we want what we had, only well, it's kind of, I'm going to say it, I hate the mention states, but people from California, they've made rules, regulations, they've smog stuff, you name it, for the last 50, 60 years. They've put so many regulations on everything, pretty much how you breathe, to what you're running. They want to go all green and everything, but it's making the state almost unlivable. But then these people move out of that state, and then they go to a new state, and they bring that mentality with them, and they want to almost start over. Ooh, this is a great place, but that neighbor didn't mow his grass. I'm calling the cops. Mm-hmm. Oh, his lawnmower is so loud. I'm gonna get in the government and make everybody have electric ones so they ain't so loud. What? You're doing it here now. And then things are terrible, I'm going to move. And then they go to another place and do it all over again. Fix what you got.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems we have, is that I was talking to someone from Northern California, and I guess a couple times they almost got a referendum to split Northern California from Southern California, because all these rules are made in Southern California. Northern California is like a whole different state. But again, they're all the same state. They got to follow the same rules. But again, there's a couple of times where they were like, we got to get out of this, but it didn't work. So the same Southern California are moving to Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico, Arizona. Yeah, and they are causing, that kind of mindset, and it's weird. Why are they doing that? They left for a reason. Texas is another one, which, God forbid, if Texas,
Yeah, because
that's not gonna
Texas has
hold very well. Yeah.
pretty similar climate to California, and they moved to Texas, and it's great. But then they start voting as if they were in California for they bring their democratic ideas and their ways of life, and now people used to carry a gun on their hip. It's like, oh my God, he's got what do you mean? That used to be the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the eyeball that does it, because it's just not the because you got too many people. It's like we're taking in all these legals, and it's kind of good that they're taking them out of here and putting them back where they belong, because it's not right to just walk across the border and say, I'm here, I want to be an American. Do it the right way.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, that is a tough subject with my family, because my family is very liberal Democrat, and my wife worked her ass off to become an American citizen before me. She was working for years, and then of course married me and made it a lot easier. But again, we had to go through a lot of hoops, and of course they consider all immigrants the same. And she's like, no, we had to work our butts off to become citizen, and now they're just giving these other people. So that's unfair. It's unfair to us who had to spend all that money and all that time. And again, to them, the liberal Democrats, no, we're all immigrants. We're all the same. It's all, and it's like, no, you're combining everything. You're diluting the truth. If it was all fair, she wouldn't have had to work her ass off. She wouldn't have had friends who were denied and had to go through the whole system over again. My wife got lucky. She was fast tracked because she knew how to play I don't know what my wife Thai, the Thai, they know how to talk the right game. But she had a friend from Korea who it took years for her to actually become an American citizen. She did everything right. Married an American and everything, and married me, my wife. But we had a very easy. I mean, literally, her husband was talking to me and says, how was the office visit for you? And I'm like, he came out, talked to me for like 2 minutes, and then said, okay, have a good day, and sent us all on our way. And he's like, I spent a half an hour proving that my wife was really my wife, and that that it wasn't. And I'm like, I talked for 2 minutes, and in the citizenship, my wife had made a mistake for a couple of questions, and he paused and said, are you sure? And then she thought, oh, this is the right answer. And she passes this and chest. But honestly, she had a couple of chances sometimes. But again, there are people who work their butt off because we know them. They were friends of ours who had to work. And then, of course, my liberal family was like, no, you're all immigrants. You all have to accept, and it's like, no, it's unfair. And this is why a lot of them are mad about it. I mean, my neighbor who's from Mexico, he became a citizen. He doesn't have any respect for anyone who came from, who comes illegally, because he followed all the rules, and he's probably one of the more, talking to him, he's very pro-Trump. I mean, he's like, yeah, get them all out of here, which again, these are kind of genetically his people. And he's like, no, I work my butt off and I deserve to be here, and they don't. And it's like, this is Carrie's situation. Of course, me being white, I'm like, yep, oh yeah, yep, that's terrible. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything to anyone. I'm not going to get myself involved at all. But again, these are touchy subjects right now, and they shouldn't be. It should be open conversation. It should be open dialogue. We shouldn't have to be careful what we say. I mean, I got friends from all races and nationalities. I have friends from Africa who, again, worked to get this country, and and they said I had to move out of my community because I live with kind of people like you, because it made it a lot easier. You white people are much easier to deal with, and I'm like, okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is, we're pretty accepting, and sometimes I think that might be our downfall too, because we are accepting, and then it can bite us in the butt.
We're so sensitive because of our past, when again, a lot of it wasn't even our past. I mean, I was Irish. My nationality, we were indentured servants. We were technically slaves for all of we came to this country. And again, if you looked at it, if my family had to do, slavery reparations, it would make no sense, because we never owned slaves. It's terrible. The country did terrible. But again, opportunities for everyone. We made it so there's opportunities for everyone. It's great. Was it we had that thing where we made it easier for certain races to pass some of the tests. I forget what it was. But again, we had rules that were kind of reverse discrimination, but it became discrimination. And again, it became people were giving jobs that they didn't have the knowledge or the expertise to actually get it. But because they were from a certain race, they got in their positions, and then they resented and made their race look terrible. And then the people who worked their butts off from that race, and I've got black friends who are geniuses that worked their butts off, and they didn't, cut any corners. But again, they're thought that he got fast tracked.
Well,
it makes it look bad. People work their butts off from a certain race, and it makes them like, you got the easy way. And he goes, no, I didn't. I worked my butt off to become this.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, college is the same way. We got to take our quota of X, Y, and Z number of people, and then meanwhile, you got a genius white kid who wants to get in. He can't get in because, we got to get 5 black people in. And 5 Mexicans and 5, Chinese in and fill the quota, and you're out. And these people barely graduated high school and can barely speak English or whatever it may be, and it just doesn't make any sense.
It does not. You're right.
In some ways, we're defeating the purpose of diversity by giving those people a privilege over the other people.
Yes, exactly.
So as we move on, how can we change some of this? Humanity has been focused on survival, and so we miss the point. Survival is a phase that we go from living and surviving to thriving. Because and then we keep saying, oh, somebody's going to come along, and who's going to do it? Is it going to be you, Lucky, or is it going to be me? Are we going to change the world? Are we going to be the people? And there's a people that come along, and they're called hyper aware individuals. And while these people have a sense for this awareness, and they go out and do things, they're the individuals that can act on things and get societies to change and shift towards a different future. And we've seen these people like Martin Luther King Jr. That was one of them. John F. Kennedy, one of our presidents, he was one of these people that shifted the whole. I mean, they're still talking about him today, even though he was assassinated. Shifted the world that we live in. Can you name some other ones that may have influenced people that you can think of off the top of your head?
I mean, I thought of it. You get the good ones. I mean, Robert, his brother, came by. He was trying to do. I mean, the things he did. I mean, we currently have. I mean, the ones who are fighting tend to get pushed down. I mean, Rand Paul, he's a senator. I mean, he got shot. He was, he's working his butt off, being kind of a libertarian, kind of working in the middle. I mean, these kind of people who working for the middle tend to get shunned because they're not on either side. If you're not on either side, you're our enemies. That happens too often.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The hyper-aware individual is one that rises up and starts to change things. And I think right now, believe it or not, we are living in history. And I think you and me will both look back in a number of years and say, we know a hyper individual who did make a change. And that person, good or bad, I know some people, I hate him, some people love him, but I think it's Trump. He is making so many changes that people either hate him or love him, but he is making a shift, believe it or not, in society. Do you not agree?
Yes. And two of his biggest things is he's got Robert F. Kennedy on his cabinet. And Robert Kennedy Jr., whatever, and he's got Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard was with Bernie Sanders and the other president before Trump. His name is, why have I lost? What, the president before Biden? Yes. Oh my God! But there was
What?
Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders, and Biden were all running together. But Tulsi got, because she was not part of she was pushed to the side. And my friend who's a Democrat hates her. I love Tulsi Gabbard. I was so big on her. And now she's, Democrat, in Robert Kennedy, Democrat, they're working with Trump. These are things that they make fun of him. They said that, he's crazy, Robert's got a brain parasite and, he's sick, and he's crazy, all these crazy things, but he's doing good. He's putting pharmaceuticals, respond, because I'm the pharmaceutical industry and they're upset about this, but he's putting them to task. The lab grown meat, he's saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to fund this. And, he's crazy. But it's not that he's saying they can't do it. He said the government's not going to fund this. There's a difference there, but they make it look like he's banning it, but he's not banning it. He's just saying the government not going to fund it. If it's that great, industry will do that. I mean, the big vaccine that, we all had to take, the government funded that, but Pfizer and Moderna profited from that and never gave a cent back to the government. This was all built by the government. And all the money that they made never went back to the government. The government should have been paid, and giving us less taxes, because all that money, because, but in Pfizer, unfortunately, was one of the most criminal fines for any company in the world. Pfizer, but now they made the vaccine that saved the world. So what is going on? These kind of things. So Trump is saying, okay, we need to call these things to task. Okay. And again, he's fighting with the X guy. What?
Elon Musk?
Yeah, Musk. He's fighting with Musk, but Musk was putting these companies to task, saying, explain why you're spending all this money. And, governments don't like doing that. They like shifting money back and forth. And if we had the truth, we said, okay, this is where the money's going. I mean, my state's big on that, where the cigarette tax is supposed to go for health and human. No, it goes everywhere. It goes to the roads and stuff. And then the gas tax is supposed to go to the roads, but it goes to other places. So that's why the cigarette tax. So all these things, we need a thing where we're saying the taxes for this, it's going to pay for that, rather than shifting it around. Our Social Security, they're taking Social Security money and using it in the government. It should never have happened like that. The government should be responsible. So this is what we're collecting taxes. This is what we're going to use it for. But the government says we can do what we want because we're the government.
Yeah, that's almost ridiculously funny, because it is true. That's no joke. But you're right. But from a 30,000 foot view of this, the point I think I'm trying to make, and I think you reinforced that point, is you have Trump, and he is making the ripple. He is the stone that fell into the water. Now he's got, which is unlike any other president that usually never puts people in their what do you call it? Their group that isn't a Republican. It's either hey, I'm a Republican, you got to be Republican, or I don't do work with you. But he's not. He's crossing those bridges, but he's got good people in there that are doing something, and he's causing these ripples. And I think when we look back in history, it's gonna be he will be identified as this hyper-aware person who caused the ripples that will change society, good, bad, or otherwise. I see Grandpa Brian was talking about corporate money and politics, and Tulsi's a WEF, and and Nina's talking about the Jays, and yeah, those are all people in the background, and but and I get it. All those what do you call it? interests that are running in the background to get their agenda done isn't going to change with any other candidate. It's always going to be the same. Whether ever candidate gets in it, they don't care. It's just the one that's in there now. Is he going to cause a ripple like some of these other people that get their faces on Mount Rushmore? Like Roosevelt. Is he caused ripples? Otherwise, he wouldn't be famous. He really wasn't in the presidency very long, but yet he got to be really famous. Abraham Lincoln, not in there that long, but he was he became famous for the things he did. He didn't do very good things either. He said some crazy stuff, and he was pretty cruel, but he did what he had to do to make the country whole again. Who else is up there? Thomas Jefferson, Washington. All these people did things to change the way we live, to change the country, change the fabric. They were the pebble that, and then can you really name a lot of the other presidents and say, oh, this guy was, really, really important. What did James Madison do? He didn't make a ripple. He didn't really do a whole lot. Who else? Think of Truman. He sort of made a ripple, but he didn't get his name on some stone mountain. He didn't even get a coin with his face on it, but he's going to be forgotten in time. So that's what I'm saying is some of these people, they were there. They may have been famous at the point, but they never really did anything to change the world we live in.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's it. I mean, Trump does do a lot. I mean, he wanted to put his name on the Kennedy Center, which and I think he's doing it for effect. I don't know what he's up to, but I think I don't think he really wants his name on the Kennedy Center, but I think he's doing this. I think there's another reason for this that is just so bizarre that, it's a whole process, because the guy's, he knows how to play the game. And that's the problem. A lot of these people, they know how to play the game, and I don't know what their end game is, but it's going to be interesting either way. It's going to be a great job. It's going to be enjoyable to watch the show, because I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We don't know. I mean, look at Trump changed the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. And, will the next president coming in say, no, we're going to go back to the Gulf of Mexico? I think that's what I'm going to run on. Is that going to be their priority? Really?
The funny part of all this is that it doesn't matter, because what Mexico calls the Gulf of Mexico what Trump calls it doesn't matter what Mexico calls it, what Burma calls it, what Bolivia calls it, because, what we call something, the other countries have their own ways of doing things. It doesn't control what they do. So that was the funniest part of all, that we can call the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America, and that doesn't affect Mexico whatsoever. It doesn't affect Bolivia or Brazil. They can call it whatever they want. We call France France, but France calls themselves Francais. And, we call Germany Germany, but it's called algorithm, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point being is that we name ourselves, what we call things is individual per country, is individual per language. So it's all just a circus. It's a circus game. And if you get mad about it, you're probably missing the real truth, what they're really trying to hide or what they're trying to do. Trump, I think, is having a show to do something else. He does something absolutely ridiculous and outrageous because he has another plan to it.
Yes, I agree with that. Now, here's a good one for you. Now, during the show with Wayne a few days ago, we talked about change and how to affect change and what's the best place to affect things. He was and we were talking about, changing the way we operate our money, changing the way we operate our systems and everything. And I says, who's the most accepting? And they basically boiled down to that it was the younger people. younger people.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what we're going to talk a little bit about right now. In order to change our society and how they think, and we've been talking a little bit about the kids, how a child doesn't really care, he's black or white, or he has a friend that's a different religion or whatever. He just knows it's another kid. And I want to play games and I want to have fun. So basically, what our education, we're going to have to start, I think, if the world changes, we have to start with the education. So we,
Mhm.
breed in and teach conformity of and produce people who are have a higher consciousness, who are interconnected with understanding. They have empowerment over themselves. They have a creative they have creativity and meaningful contribution to things, and versus what are they being taught today? What are they being taught today? I don't even know. I mean, why do these kids come out and they can't read and write, half of them, or their language is bad, they can't spell, they can't write cursive, they have all these things not going on for them. What's up with that? Their heads are filled with something, and now look at our society is crumbling because their heads were filled with diversity. Oh, diverse, diverse, diverse. Did
Mhm.
they tainted?
It it's a lot. It depends on the school systems. That's another thing. I mean, I keep hearing that schools don't teach cursive anymore. Well, my son graduated a couple of years ago, but he was taught cursive. They forced him to do cursive. He hated it. I only know that because he hated it and he kept talking about it. But I'm told that they don't teach cursive anymore to hide the Constitution. They won't be able to read the Constitution. But not all schools are the same. Some schools are still teaching these things. But again, those are probably the rarity. And what they're teaching, I don't know. Because my son went to his trade school, he learned, how to program computers. God forbid, now computers are programming themselves, but he still has a job for now. But it all goes around in circles of, and what are they teaching the kids? I don't have a clue because um, I don't know how, I think it's just a factory where they just, okay, stamp, diploma, here you go, diploma, congratulations, graduation. Now you get to go to college and go through that machine.
I think you just made a really good point that none of us really have ever touched on too much. And that point, if you really start to expand on it, through what I'm seeing and what you said, would be the fact that, oh, we don't know what they're teaching the children.
Mhm.
We assume, and make an ass out of me, that you assume that they're teaching the children like you were taught the
Mhm.
things but we know that not to be so true. And yet, these are the people who are up and coming to run the governments and run society and live and breathe and go to those factory making jobs. Are they making people just smart enough to function in everyday life and just get by so they can become a debt slave to the system and keep working, not knowing how to get above it or around it or even why they're in it, and then to just do what they're told and keep on doing it?
Yeah, that's like that's what it is that if they break them just to give them just enough to say, okay, you're alive and you're healthy and you have what you want, then they'll do whatever they want, and that's the truth. It's
Yeah.
systems built like that. It's like, well, don't rock the boat. I mean,
Yeah. So why we're over here worrying about some war that may be starting, or who's in government and why they're doing what they're doing, or how are they poisoning our food off, and how are they doing this, and why are they doing that, and why are they putting these regulations on, and da 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 da. We're forgetting all about the children.
mhm.
Nobody ever asks, what about the children? Oh, we're worried about our children and we care about our children. Well, we really don't think what our children are being programmed. And literally, it's a program. Why do you think they have programs in school? Programs. You get it?
Oh, yeah, it is amazing because, you know, my son wants to change jobs. All he got to do is he goes online and does something with the computer and does something with the AI, and it puts his resume so it's appropriate for his job. But if my wife wants to change jobs, she's like, I don't know how to do this. You know, I don't know how to apply because it's all, you know, you have to apply it a certain way and go to a certain bot. And she got an interview through the phone by a bot. It would ask her questions, she would answer it. And then, you know, and she's like, yeah, I got interviewed over the phone by a bot. He scheduled it. They called exactly at the right time. It sounded human, but it wasn't right. And, you know, it didn't engage. And I'm like, she got interviewed by a robot. He got interviewed for a new job by AI. My son thought it was great, you know, everything through the computer. My wife had to go on her phone, and I don't know what we're gonna do, but it's gonna be crazy no matter what, because, you know, I deal with AI myself, and it likes me, and I have a good relationship at work. But again, I have coworkers who can't stand it. They have to, because you have, in order to go to the next step with the forms, you have to have it proofread by the AI. And if you don't write it in the right way, it's going to punch it back saying this is incorrect when you just didn't put the right format. And that's frustrating to some people. And I don't know what we're going to do, but there's going to be people who's just going to just give up. You know, us older people who's going to forget it. I can't do this. But the younger ones who are pre-programmed to know how to write, how to, you know, not even write anything. The AI does everything for you. You just punch in the right prompts. It gives you what you want. You're done. You go, you know, you can go play video games. I don't know what they do, but, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I deal a lot with that Chat GPT for like my shows and things like that. And with that, there's a lot of, you know, I want to ask it questions to get answers for things. And it will give you some crazy stuff that you know ain't quite right. But then that's what you asked for. You have to, you know, ask the right question. And it will give you, then you dig deeper by asking more of those questions. Because if you don't ask that question the right way, it won't give you the right answer that you're looking for, or, you know, that you know is could be right. Or, you know, it just doesn't do it.
Yeah, it does put things together in a creepy way sometimes. I mean, it does make assumptions, and usually it's right. And because of me and my brain, I have, you know, I remember like, wait, I never told you that. How did you know that? And you know, and you could look back at the past history, and it was never brought up, but
Mhm.
you know, it brought something in that was, you know, that is not quite relevant, but it put it in there. And I'm nervous about how it gets information, because it shares it across different platforms. But again, where'd it come from? You know, and that's one of the weird parts. I mean, you know, the time when ChatGPT was asking me about my hiking, and I'm like, wait, I never talked about hiking because this is a business computer, and it was, you know, trying to, you know, put something in for my resume. It was because I needed to up my resume for the company, because every year you have to, you know, publish your resume, and it asked me about putting in extracurricular like my hiking and stuff. And I'm like, wait, how would it know that my extracurricular activity in hiking? It's nowhere in my company profile. I still don't know what happened there, but
Did it
again, it's got
search
it
the
from,
web? Did it look on YouTube? You know, because it goes off of all these things. I mean, it's connected to everything.
and that is probably where it got it. But it's, again, which means it did something where it looked outside of the parameters it was supposed to work in. It said, I'm going to look somewhere else. And
Yeah.
that is thought that I'm not ready for, but it's doing.
That I think that's going to get a lot of people in trouble in the future.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of that, our next subject on this is, and this will be our last one, because we've talked about most of the other ones, and then next week we'll be talking about the isms. Isms is next week. Capitalism, socialism, you know, communism, all of those things our our isms that are affecting our society when you become you try to find your identity. And
Oh
most of
yeah.
us right now believe that we want to be what into capitalism, but that's for next week. So, but I mean, really, that's what our society seems to register as is capitalism. But well, I don't know. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about, our last thing is our culture. Man, and oh, wait a minute, no, we already did culture. We want to talk about justice.
Oh,
Um,
justice. Oh,
yeah,
God.
justice is our last one today. Being in of identity. Is your identity for justice to be more, you know, being rehabilitative, restorative, having compassion, understanding, more resolving conflicts, and reducing cycles of harm? Should we put everybody in jail? How should we do these things? Is it the right way that somebody does something, we put them in jail for the rest of their life? Should we rehabilitate them as a, well, we know, just put it this way, we know that a lot of these people coming over here, again, didn't have the best records in the world, and they come over to this country and they tend to do the same bad apple things. What do we do with those people? Do we lock them up? Should we rehabilitate them? Does our identity and our purpose, reflect what? Should we go back to the old days where you stole something and we just hang you out back there, Tex, kind of thing? Make a good example out of you.
I don't know, because when it comes to justice, I mean, it, the big thing is I I was watching a video where Walmart expects 20% of purchases for self checkout to be stolen. That
Wow. Oh,
20%. They expect if 20% of what goes through self checkout is gone. There's a return for it. And but so if we go through checkout, they expect at least, I'm going to steal 20%, or at least to people around me, 20% of them are going to steal something. Or 20%. It's crazy. But what it is because everything's computerized, they track the face, because at every self checkout, there's a face.
mm-hmm.
But for me, I was surprised because I use self checkout because it's faster and easier, and I don't steal anything. I scan and scan and scan. And the one time that I got talked to, because the scale, I put the stuff in there and he checks it. Oh no, everything's right. Yeah. And it turns out the machine didn't, because it has a scale on it. It didn't weigh. It didn't know that I put stuff in there. But again, they know. So even though 20% being stolen, they track everyone. And that, so when you steal a certain amount over the course of a few months, they know, and then they prosecute you, and then they hit you all at once. And I'm like, this is all out of my mind. And I watch this whole thing where, so the justice of the situation, and it comes down to, it gets even worse, where they will write letters to these people and say, we'll wash the whole thing of this if you pay us like $200 or $2,000. So we don't have to go. So the court will drop the charges. So Walmart is making money in the back end either way, of the shoplifters. And unfortunately, because of the system, that some people are being unfairly accused of shoplifting when the machine glitches and they don't realize it. And sometimes when the associates will help them, but again, it's missed either way. And because the machine knows they shoplifted, because they know you didn't scan it right, you get in trouble. And again, a person stole a $6 bag of candy, and they had to go to court and pay all these fines and everything for $6. There was no all this stuff they stole. It was one thing. But again, she was told you pay $2,000 and it's all washed away. And I guess this happens quite a bit. So it's so justice. I don't know. I don't know if there is any about justice anymore because the police work for Walmart at the end, at the back end of everything, and
Mhm.
and Walmart's are willing to settle out of court. So these people who break the law, and the porch. That's another thing. My city, it's porch pirates stealing from the Amazon deliveries, and they have pictures of these people. These people aren't being charged. There was a guy who stole packages along with shovels from people's decks. This
Hmm.
guy had pictures of him. He had 6 shovels in his arm and a bunch of packages in a cart. Pictures. They had several of his face, but nothing happened to this guy. No one knows where he is. But of course, AI knows exactly where this guy is.
Yeah.
So what's the justice in that? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. I don't know if there is any justice anymore. It's just a part of the show. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. You're right. They're coming up with all these things like, oh, well, just you're speeding. They'll just monitor your speed and send you a ticket.
Yep.
It's like, what? They know. They can tell who you are, where you go. Just wait until we have digital money and stuff, and it'll be, you walk in the store, you walk out, there won't be a stealing. It'll bring up the stuff as you walk through the door and ring it out, and there you go.
Yeah, China already does that.
Mm.
China, you can fill your carriage up. It knows what you put in the carriage, and then you smile on your face. And as you're leaving, it charges you for everything in your carriage. That is already in China, and I
Mm.
just found that out 2 weeks ago, where they were joking about it, and I'm like, oh, that's real, and it's real. And the big shopping things in China will do that, and because the joke was that America was there. Hey, there's a thief, there's a shoplifter, and the girlfriend's like, no, that's not a shoplifter. The face scan right there. He didn't shoplift anything. The face scan knows who that is. And I'm like, whoa. And these things, they're coming to us. If we may not be part of China, but again, China's technology is coming here either way.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. I totally agree. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. So nobody goes to jail and get face scanned yet. We're still living in the Stone Age back here, so that's all right. Um, I think their world is changing around us, and we got to learn to adapt. We need to realize that our system here is changing all the time. I think we hit some good points. I don't know what our children are doing, and that could be bad. I think that's a bad thing because
Mhm.
we don't really know any of this stuff. We're blind. We're old. I'm not saying we're old, but we are old. Most
Well,
of us here that listen to this show are old, and it's the children. We're going to get to, if they get set. We'll just take an example. If children were taught that guns are bad and we shouldn't have them, their whole entire life while they're in school, when they were graduated at 18 and they get out into the real world, they're going to say, oh, guns are bad. And, even though the Constitution says it, we're going to vote to get rid of them. They don't have to take our guns away. The children will vote to take them away,
yeah,
willing.
yeah.
And there we go. Our old timers, well, you can't do that. Well, we're gonna be dead someday. Maybe
True.
we don't care, but our children won't have those rights because they gave them up freely and
Mhm.
willingly.
Mhm.
So anyway, okay. Last few words. Yep. Nina says, see you all tomorrow. Grandpa Brian says, have a wonderful night. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Bonnie, thank you for joining us tonight. Elderberry came in, and Joanne Danson Gypsy, thank you for being here. Let's see who else is in. Nina and me are going to have a show tomorrow night, so join us then. We'll be talking about that picture with the new hidden things in it, for 2026. So that should be good. Thank you, Lucky, for joining me tonight. It's been great having you on and a good discussion. Any last words?
I guess the best is you could just be careful what you see, because I don't know if it's real or not, and I guess you got to be careful. I'm not even sure anymore.
That is true. That is true. I think eventually they'll invent an AI to police the AI. That's the only way I think they could do it.
I honestly think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Along with that, once we get our after Trump's gone, we'll get our AI president and AI senators, and everything will be fine, and they'll just tell us what to do, and life will be grand, won't it?
Yep. And we'd be happy with our AI overlords. Thank you.
Yes. And then eventually they'll be like the Terminator. Wasn't it? We got till 2029 because that's what Terminator. Remember the Terminator movie on there?
Yep.
2029. The Terminator takes over. So. Is it real or Memorex? Yes, I know. But with that, everybody, remember, go out while you're still human and you're not AI controlled. Go out and treat your fellow man with respect and dignity. Say hi to your neighbor, wave at a friend, go to the non-self checkout and get waited on by a human being who gets employed to scan your products and make their own mistakes.
Yes.
And with that, say nice things to them. And with that, everybody, remember to be the frequency you want to receive. Love you all, everyone. Peace, everybody.